The lights of Celestial Crossing Station blazed bright against the darkness of space. Ships from 1,000 different worlds docked at its ports every day. The station was huge, stretching across several kilometers of metal and glass. Inside its walls, beings from every corner of the galaxy walked, talked, and did business together. The central plaza was the heart of the station. It was a massive open space with high ceilings that projected images of distant stars and nebulae. Shops lined the edges, selling everything from advanced weapons to exotic foods. In the middle of the plaza, a crowd had gathered. They formed a circle around someone, and the noise of excited voices filled the air. At the center stood Vexthor. He was impossible to miss. The warrior towered over nearly every other being in the plaza, standing at 9 feet tall. His body was covered in thick chitinous plates that looked like armor, but were actually part of his skin. The plates were dark blue with streaks of silver running through them. He had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle, and ending in 3-fingered hands that could crush metal. His head was angular with a heavy brow and eyes that glowed faintly yellow. Those eyes could see in spectrums that most species couldn't even imagine. Vexthor belonged to the Krathni species, and his kind were known across 12 star systems as natural warriors. But even among his own people, Vexthor was special. He had never lost a fight, not in the arena, not in war, not anywhere. His reputation had spread far and wide. "I have walked on the surface of dying stars." Vexthor's voice boomed across the plaza. He raised all 4 arms high above his head. "I have felt heat that would turn your ships into vapor, and I did not burn. I did not fall," the crowd murmured with appreciation. Some species clicked their mandibles. Others flashed colors across their skin. A few simply nodded their various types of heads. "I have fought in the death rings of Kavros 9, Vexthor continued. His voice carried pride and certainty. 60 warriors entered. Only 1 walked out. I still carry their weapons as trophies on my ship." He lowered 2 of his arms and gestured broadly at the assembled aliens. "I have survived the poison winds of Thexia. I have battled the mechanical horrors of the synthetic wars. I have stared into black holes and laughed at the void itself." A small alien near the front of the crowd, barely 3 feet tall with fur covering its body, spoke up in a squeaky voice. "Is there nothing that frightens you, great Vexthor?" The warrior's chest swelled with pride. "Nothing. Fear is for the weak, for those who have not truly tested themselves. I have been to the edge of death 100 times, and death blinked first. There is nothing in this universe that can make my hearts beat with terror. Nothing that can make me tremble. Nothing that can break my will." More murmurs rippled through the crowd. Most of them believed him. Vexthor's scars and trophies were real. His victories were documented. Military records from multiple species confirmed his battles. This wasn't empty boasting from some young warrior trying to build a reputation. This was a proven champion stating facts. But not everyone in the crowd was impressed in the same way. Standing near the back, partially hidden by a tall insectoid trader, was a human. His name was Deho, and he looked completely ordinary by human standards. He stood about 5 feet 9 inches tall with black hair cut short and practical. His build was lean but strong in the way of someone who worked with their hands every day. He wore simple clothes, a dark shirt and pants that were clean but showed signs of use. His hands, visible as he crossed his arms, were marked with small scars and calluses. Deho's face was calm as he listened to Vexthor's speech. His dark eyes watched the warrior with quiet attention. Unlike the other aliens who seemed awed or skeptical, Deho's expression showed something different. A slight smile played at the corner of his mouth. Not mocking, not challenging, just quietly amused. Vexthor was in the middle of describing his battle against a creature called a void worm, when his eyes swept across the crowd and caught sight of the human. Something about Deho's expression made the warrior pause. The human wasn't reacting like everyone else. He wasn't cheering or doubting. He was just standing there with that small smile. "You there?" Vexthor's voice cut through the plaza noise. He pointed one of his 4 hands directly at Deho. "Small one, human, do you doubt my words?" The crowd immediately went silent. All eyes turned to look at the human. Several aliens stepped away from Deho, giving him space. Some species knew about humans, the new arrivals to the galactic community. Others had never seen one before. But all of them recognized the tension in the moment. Deho didn't seem bothered by the sudden attention. He uncrossed his arms and stepped forward slightly so Vexthor could see him better. "No," he said simply. His voice was calm and clear. I don't doubt you. Your reputation is well known even among my people. Everything you've said is probably true. Vexthor's eyes narrowed slightly. The human's tone wasn't mocking, but there was something in it that suggested he had more to say. No but, tHFY replied with a slight shake of his head. You've clearly accomplished amazing things. You're a great warrior. He paused, and that small smile grew just a fraction. But if you truly fear nothing, perhaps you would honor my establishment with a visit. I run a restaurant here on the station. I would be happy to prepare something special for such a distinguished guest. The crowd's silence deepened. Several aliens exchanged glances. A few actually backed away further. The insectoid trader who had been standing near tHFY made a clicking sound that in its language meant something like, "Oh no." Vexthor tilted his head, confused by the reaction. A restaurant? You wish to feed me? If you're willing, tHFY said. I promise it will be an interesting experience. Something you've probably never encountered before. The warrior's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement, a human challenging him, not to combat but to a meal. It was so unusual that it was almost funny. And what makes your food so special, human? Do you poison your enemies through their meals? Nothing like that, tHFY assured him. Everything I serve is completely safe for your species to eat. I've checked your biological profile against the human food database. You'll survive just fine. Survive? Vexthor caught the word choice. An odd way to phrase it. tHFY's smile didn't fade. Just being precise. So will you come? Tomorrow evening, perhaps? I'll make sure to prepare my finest dishes. Ones that showcase what human cuisine can really do. Several beings in the crowd started whispering urgently to each other. Those who knew about humans and their food seemed particularly agitated. One alien, a thin creature with too many joints in its limbs, leaned toward its companion and whispered loudly enough for others to hear. Doesn't he know? Doesn't the warrior know what humans eat? But Vexthor didn't hear this, or if he did, he didn't understand the warning. He saw only a small human offering him a meal. What possible danger could there be? He had eaten the flesh of creatures from 100 worlds. He had consumed rations that other species found inedible. Food was just fuel for his body. Very well, human, Vexthor announced loudly. I accept your invitation. I will come to your restaurant tomorrow evening. Prepare your finest dishes. I'm eager to see what your young species considers special. tHFY bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect. Thank you. I promise you won't forget the experience. My restaurant is called the Ember Kitchen. It's on level 47, near the eastern docking ports. I'll have everything ready for you. The Ember Kitchen, Vexthor repeated. I will be there. And perhaps afterwards you can tell me why so many in this crowd suddenly look nervous. tHFY's expression remained pleasant and calm. They probably just know my reputation for intense flavors. Don't worry about them. Just come hungry and ready for something new. The warrior laughed, a deep rumbling sound that echoed across the plaza. Human, I'm always ready for something new. It takes more than strange food to concern me. I have eaten things that would make your species sick just from the smell. I believe you, tHFY said. And he did. But he also knew something that Vexthor didn't. Something that would become very clear tomorrow evening. The crowd began to disperse as Vexthor finished his boasting and moved on to other business. tHFY turned and walked away quietly, heading back toward his restaurant. As he walked, several aliens who knew about humans stopped him briefly. Are you really going to do it? One asked, a trader who had visited Earth once. He accepted the invitation, tHFY replied simply. But the warrior doesn't know. He has no idea what he's agreed to. tHFY's smile returned. Then tomorrow will be educational for him. He says he fears nothing. Let's see if he means it. The alien shook its head in disbelief and walked away muttering. tHFY continued on his path, already planning the menu in his mind. He had work to do. Preparations to make. Special ingredients to gather from his locked storage. Tomorrow evening was going to be very interesting indeed. Behind him, Vexthor continued to hold court in the plaza, completely unaware that he had just accepted the most challenging battle of his life. And it wouldn't involve any weapons at all, just a kitchen, a fire, and a human who knew exactly what his species' evolution had created. News traveled fast on Celestial Crossing. By the time the artificial night cycle began, half the station knew about Vexthor's acceptance of the human's invitation. By morning, everyone knew. The story spread through communication networks, across species barriers. and through the many bars and gathering places that dotted the station. In a methane-breathing lounge on level 32, a group of Krathni warriors discussed the news with concern. They knew Vexthor personally. Some had fought beside him in campaigns. They also knew that humans were unpredictable, and their reputation for strange behavior was growing. Should we warn him?
One asked, his breathing apparatus translating his words into galactic standard. Warn him about food?
Another replied skeptical. He would take it as an insult. Vexthor fears nothing, remember? That includes whatever this human plans to serve. On level 19, in a trading post run by a collective of small furry creatures, the conversation was more animated. I heard humans eat poison for fun, one claimed, its whiskers twitching nervously. Not poison exactly, another corrected. But they consume things that cause them pain. Deliberately. Their planet evolved dangerous plants and humans decided to make them into meals. That makes no sense, the first one said. Pain is a warning signal. Why would any species ignore it? No one had a good answer to that question. The Ember Kitchen sat quietly in its corner of level 47. It was a modest establishment, nothing fancy on the outside. The entrance was marked by a simple sign with the restaurant's name in several languages, including Earth's English and Korean. Through the wide windows, passers-by could see a clean, well-organized space with tables that could accommodate various body types and sizes. Inside, preparations were underway. tHFY stood in his kitchen, which was separated from the dining area by a half wall. He wore a clean white chef's jacket and moved with practiced efficiency. His sister Jiwoo was in the dining area, checking tables and making sure everything was perfect. Jiwoo was slightly shorter than her brother, with long black hair pulled back in a practical bun. Like tHFY, she had an air of calm competence. She had been managing the front of house since they opened the restaurant 2 years ago. She knew how to deal with all sorts of alien customers, their strange requirements and stranger behaviors, but even she seemed nervous today. Brother, she called out, moving toward the kitchen. Have you heard what people are saying? Half the station thinks you're going to poison him. The other half thinks he's going to wreck our restaurant when he gets angry. tHFY looked up from his preparation work. He was organizing small containers of spices, each one carefully labeled. I'm not going to poison anyone. Everything I serve will be completely safe for Krathni biology. I checked 3 times. Safe and survivable are 2 different things, Jiwoo pointed out. She leaned against the counter. Remember the incident at the Terran embassy last year? When those diplomats served spicy noodles to the Kravix delegation? I remember, tHFY said calmly. 3 of them had to go to medical. One of them said it felt like their organs were melting. Exactly. And you're planning something even more intense for a warrior who has never encountered capsaicin before. tHFY set down the container he was holding and looked at his sister. Jiwoo, he stood in the plaza and declared that he fears nothing. That nothing in the universe can make him afraid. I'm just giving him an opportunity to prove it. With food, she said flatly. With food, he confirmed. Look, I'm not trying to hurt him. I'm just showing him something new. Something uniquely human. If he can't handle it, that's not my fault. I'm warning him ahead of time. I have liability waivers prepared. I'm doing everything properly. Jiwoo sighed but nodded. She trusted her brother even when he had crazy ideas. Fine. But if he destroys our restaurant, you're paying for repairs. The kitchen door opened and Taemin walked in. He was younger than both of them, barely 25, with dyed brown hair and the lean build of someone who spent their days on their feet. He had been working at the Ember Kitchen for 8 months and had proven himself to be talented with food preparation. I got the special ingredients, Taemin announced, holding up a secure container. The vendor thought I was crazy. He kept asking if I was sure about the quantities. tHFY took the container and carefully placed it in the locked storage unit built into the wall. This storage was temperature-controlled and had security measures that seemed excessive for a restaurant. But for certain human ingredients, especially the ones tHFY planned to use tonight, such measures were necessary. Did you get the peppers I asked for? tHFY asked. All of them, Taemin confirmed. Ghost peppers, Carolina Reapers, scorpion peppers, and that experimental hybrid from the Mars colonies. The vendor said that last one is rated at over 2.3 million Scoville units. Jiwoo, who had been arranging glasses behind the bar, turned around sharply. 2.3 million? Brother, are you insane? Probably. Daeho admitted with a small smile, but he said he fears nothing. Taemin laughed nervously. I also got the dairy products for afterwards. Milk, yogurt, and that special ice cream from Earth. We're going to need all of it. As the afternoon progressed, something unusual began to happen. Aliens started arriving at the restaurant asking to make reservations for that evening. Not to eat necessarily, but to watch. Word had spread that something interesting was going to happen, and nobody wanted to miss it. Ji-woo handled the requests diplomatically. I'm sorry, but we're fully booked for this evening, she told a tall reptilian creature who had offered to pay triple the normal price. I just want to watch, the alien insisted. I don't need a table. I can stand in the corner. Fire code regulations, Ji-woo replied smoothly. We can only accommodate a certain number of bodies in the space. Safety requirements, it wasn't entirely true, but it was a good excuse. By the time the evening cycle approached, she had turned away more than 50 potential spectators. Still, some were allowed in. Regular customers who had standing reservations. A few species representatives who claimed they needed to document human-alien interactions for cultural databases. And to everyone's surprise, 3 more Krathni warriors who wanted to watch their champion experience human cuisine. These 3 arrived in the late afternoon to inspect the restaurant. They were Vexthor's companions and wanted to make sure no trap was being set for their leader. The largest one, called Grax, stood near the entrance and scanned everything with instruments built into his armor. No weapons detected, he announced. No toxins in the air. Environmental conditions are normal. The second one, Thun, walked around the dining area examining tables and chairs. He was even bigger than Vexthor, a mountain of muscle and armor plating. He picked up a chair with one hand and inspected it carefully before setting it down. Furniture seems reinforced. Good. Vexthor will not break anything by sitting. The third companion was different from the other 2. Her name was Yuriva, and while she was also Krathni, she came from a different subspecies. Her armor plating had a crystalline quality that caught the light and broke it into subtle colors. She moved with grace rather than power, and her voice was smoother than her male companions. What exactly are you planning to serve? She asked Daeho directly. Daeho was arranging place settings at the main table. He looked up and met her eyes without flinching. Traditional human foods from various cultures. I'm specializing in Korean cuisine, but I'll be incorporating elements from other Earth regions as well. Everything has been cleared by the Galactic Food Safety Board as appropriate for Krathni biology. That's not what I asked, Yuriva said. I've studied humans. I know your species has unusual relationships with pain and discomfort. You seek it out in ways that other species find bizarre. So I ask again, what are you planning? Daeho smiled slightly. I'm planning to give your champion exactly what he asked for. An interesting experience, something he's never encountered before, something memorable. You're going to hurt him, she stated. No, Daeho corrected. I'm going to challenge him. There's a difference. Grax stepped forward and his size made him intimidating even though his posture wasn't aggressive. If you harm Vexthor, human, there will be consequences. I understand, Daeho said calmly. But Vexthor is a warrior who claims to fear nothing. If he can't handle a meal, what does that say about his boast? The 3 Krathni exchanged glances. None of them could argue with that logic. Vexthor had made his claim publicly. He had accepted this challenge. If he backed down now or if his companions interfered, it would shame him far more than any temporary discomfort from food. We will be here, Thun rumbled, watching. If treachery occurs, you will regret it. There will be no treachery, Daeho assured them. Just food. Just an experience. You're welcome to join him at the table if you'd like. I can prepare portions for all of you. The 3 warriors looked at each other again. Finally, Yuriva spoke. We will join him. We stand with Vexthor in all things. Of course, Daeho said. He made a note on his preparation list. 4 Krathni instead of 1. That meant more work, but also more witnesses. More people to spread the story afterwards. I'll make sure there's enough for everyone. The door to the Ember Kitchen slid open and Vexthor stepped through. His massive frame filled the doorway for a moment before he moved inside. Behind him came his 3 companions, Grax, Thun, and Yuriva. All 4 warriors wore light armor, ceremonial rather than combat-ready, but still impressive. The restaurant fell silent as they entered. Every eye turned to watch. Even the regular customers who had been eating their meals stopped to stare. It wasn't every day that Celestial Crossing's most famous warrior visited a human establishment. Ji-woo greeted them at the entrance with a slight bow. A gesture she had learned was respectful across many cultures. "Welcome to the Ember Kitchen. We're honored by your presence. Please follow me." She led them to the main table, which had been specially reinforced and expanded to accommodate their size. 4 chairs had been modified to support Krathny weight and body structure. The table was set with simple elegance, clean white plates and metal utensils designed for various hand configurations. Vexthor sat first, his forearms moving with practiced coordination as he settled into the chair. It held his weight without creaking. He nodded approvingly. "Sturdy. Good." His companions took their seats around him. Thune had to adjust his chair twice to fit comfortably. Grax sat ramrod straight, his military bearing evident in every movement. Iriva moved with fluid grace, her crystalline plating catching the restaurant's ambient light. "Can I offer you water to start?" Jiwoo asked. "Or we have other beverages if you prefer." "Water is fine," Vexthor rumbled. He looked around the restaurant with open curiosity. The space was smaller than he expected, but clean and well organized. Strange scents drifted from the kitchen area, smells he didn't recognize. Some were pleasant. Others were harder to categorize. "Your establishment is modest, human. We prefer to focus on the food rather than decoration," Jiwoo replied diplomatically. She poured water into 4 large glasses designed for Krathny hands. "My brother believes that good cooking speaks for itself." "Wise philosophy," Grax commented. He took a drink of water, analyzing it automatically. Pure, clean, standard composition. Nothing suspicious. Vexthor's eyes were drawn to the kitchen area where he could see tHFY moving around. The human worked with efficient movements, his attention focused on his task. "That is him? The one who invited me?" "Yes, that's my brother tHFY," Jiwoo confirmed. "He'll be preparing your meal personally. He's been planning this menu all day." "I am eager to taste what your species considers special," Vexthor said. His tone carried confidence but also genuine interest. He had traveled widely and eaten foods from many worlds. Each species had their own culinary traditions, shaped by their evolution and environment. What had humans developed? Around the restaurant, other diners pretended to return to their own meals while clearly listening to every word at the main table. A few had recording devices running, though Jiwoo pretended not to notice. This evening would be talked about for weeks regardless. Better to let it happen naturally. tHFY emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray. He walked to the table with steady steps and set the tray down on a service stand beside them. "Good evening," he said, his voice calm and warm. "Thank you for coming. I've prepared a special tasting menu for tonight. Multiple courses, each one showcasing different aspects of human cuisine." "You honor us with your effort," Iriva said formally. Unlike her male companions, she had studied human customs and knew that they valued politeness in dining situations. "The honor is mine," tHFY replied. He began placing small plates in front of each warrior. "This first course is called kimchi pancakes. Kimchi is a traditional Korean fermented vegetable dish. In this preparation, I've mixed it with flour and eggs and pan-fried it until crispy. It's served with a light soy-based dipping sauce." The 4 Krathny looked at the golden brown pancakes with interest. They smelled savory and complex with a slight tang that was unusual but not unpleasant. Vexthor picked up the utensil provided, a fork modified for his 3-fingered hand. He cut a piece of the pancake and brought it to his mouth. The texture was interesting, crispy on the outside and soft inside. The flavor hit his tongue and he paused, processing it. Sour, salty, slightly sweet, with an undertone of something fermented that his species' palate found intriguing. "Interesting," he said after swallowing. "Complex. Many flavors working together." His companions tried their portions as well. Grax ate methodically, analyzing each element. Thune simply enjoyed it without comment. Iriva's crystalline plating shifted to a warm amber color, a sign of pleasure in her subspecies. "The fermentation process creates unique flavor compounds," tHFY explained. "Humans have been fermenting foods for thousands of years. It started as a preservation method but became an art form." "Your species has talent for cooking," Vexthor admitted. "This is well made." tHFY smiled slightly. "Thank you. But that was just the beginning. The warm-up course, if you will." He collected their empty plates and returned to the kitchen. Jiwoo moved through the dining room, checking on other tables while keeping an eye on the main event. The other customers were eating slowly, trying to make their meals last so they could witness everything. The second course arrived several minutes later. This time the plates held small portions of what tHFY called ginger chicken with black pepper sauce. The pieces of meat were tender and coated in a dark, glossy sauce. This dish introduces more intense flavors, tHFY explained. Ginger is a root vegetable from Earth. It has a sharp warming quality. Black pepper is a spice that creates a tingling sensation. Vexthor tried it without hesitation. The meat itself was good, tender, and flavorful. But then he noticed something else. A warmth building in his mouth. Not unpleasant, but definitely present. It spread across his tongue and down his throat. His secondary respiratory system, which connected to his mouth, registered the sensation as well. Ah, he said, his mandibles clicking. I feel it. The heat, interesting. Grax ate his portion more cautiously. It creates a physical response. Not just flavor, but sensation. Exactly, tHFY confirmed. Humans discovered that certain plants produce compounds that trigger heat-sensing neurons. We learned to cultivate these plants and use them in cooking. But why? Thune asked, genuinely puzzled. Pain is a warning signal. It tells you something is dangerous, that's true, tHFY agreed. But humans decided that the sensation was enjoyable in controlled amounts. We pursued it deliberately. Yuriva finished her portion and her plating shifted to a slightly orange hue, indicating thought or confusion. Your species is strange, human. Most beings avoid pain. We're aware we're unusual in that regard, tHFY said. His expression remained pleasant and calm. But this is still quite mild by human standards. Children eat food at this level. That statement made all 4 warriors pause. Children? Their young could handle this burning sensation? What kind of species were humans? The 3rd course came next, and with it a noticeable increase in intensity. The dish was called spicy pork bulgogi with chili paste. The meat was darker, almost red, and the smell coming from it made several nearby aliens shift uncomfortably in their seats. Now we're moving into what humans would consider moderately spicy, tHFY explained. This uses gochugaru, Korean chili flakes, and gochujang, a fermented chili paste. The heat level is significantly higher than the previous courses. Vexthor looked at the red-colored meat with interest rather than concern. He had survived poison atmospheres and radiation exposure. He had eaten the flesh of creatures that fought back even while being digested. What could one small plate of alien food do to him? He took a bite. For a few seconds, everything seemed fine. The meat was good. The flavors were rich and complex. Then the heat arrived. Not gradually like before, but all at once. It was like someone had lit a small fire inside his mouth. His tongue registered pain signals. His throat felt like it was swelling. His eyes began to water involuntarily. Ah! Vexthor's voice came out slightly strangled. He reached for his water glass and drank deeply. The water helped a little, spreading the heat around but not eliminating it. That is insignificant. Grax tried his portion and his entire body stiffened. His armor plating actually shifted darker, a stress response in Krathni biology. By the void, he gasped. What is this substance? Capsaicin, tHFY answered. It's the compound that creates the burning sensation. It binds to the same receptors in your nervous system that detect actual heat from fire. Thune had eaten his entire portion in one bite, not knowing what to expect. Now he sat very still, all 4 of his arms gripping the table. His breathing was heavy. It feels like combat, he managed to say. My body thinks it's in danger. Yuriva ate more carefully, taking small bites. Her crystalline structure was shifting through multiple colors, red and orange and yellow, processing the intense stimulation. This is extraordinary, she said, though her voice was tight. Painful but not harmful. I understand the confusion this would create in one's mind. Around the restaurant, the spectators watched with fascination. Some were taking notes. Others were recording video. A few were placing bets on how much further the warriors would go. Vexthor finished his water and set the glass down firmly. His pride was engaged now. Yes, this was uncomfortable. Yes, his body was sending alarm signals. The atmosphere in the Ember kitchen had changed. What started as curiosity had transformed into tension. Everyone in the restaurant could feel it. The 4 Krathni warriors sat at their table, recovering from the 3rd course. Their bodies still processed the burning sensation, still sent alarm signals that something was wrong even though no actual damage had occurred. Vexthor's confidence had taken its first real hit. He would never admit it out loud, but that last dish had surprised him. The intensity of the capsaicin was unlike any combat injury he had experienced. Burns from plasma weapons hurt in a clean, direct way. This was different. This crept through his system, lingered, refused to leave. It was insidious, but he was Vexthor. He had made his declaration in the plaza. He had accepted this challenge publicly. Dozens of beings in this restaurant were watching him. Hundreds more across the station were following updates through their networks. He could not back down, would not back down. Grax leaned toward him and spoke quietly. Champion, perhaps we have proven our point. We have tasted human food. We have experienced their strange burning plants. There is no shame in stopping now. Vexthor turned his head to look at his tactical specialist. Would you stop? Grax hesitated. I would consider the tactical value of continuing versus the cost. That's not what I asked, Vexthor said. Would you stop? After a moment, Grax shook his head. No, I would continue. Then we continue, Vexthor declared. He looked at Thune and Yariva. And you too? Thune's response was immediate. I stand with you, champion. Always. Yariva's crystalline plating had settled into a deep blue color, the shade of determination. I am curious now, she admitted. This human has shown us something we never imagined. I want to see how far this goes. From the kitchen, they could hear sounds of preparation. tHFY was working on something, his movements visible through the half wall. Taman was assisting him, and both humans wore gloves now. Actual protective gloves, the kind used when handling dangerous materials. Several aliens in the dining room noticed this detail and began whispering urgently. One creature, a blob-like being that communicated through color changes, actually left the restaurant entirely. Its species had highly sensitive chemical receptors, and even the smell of what was being prepared was too much for it. Jiwoo moved through the restaurant, checking on customers and trying to maintain an appearance of normalcy. But even she seemed more alert than usual, her movements careful and precise. She stopped by the main table. My brother asked me to give you these, she said, holding out 4 documents printed on data tablets. They're liability waivers. Galactic standard forms. They acknowledge that you've been warned about the extreme nature of the next courses, and that you're choosing to continue of your own free will. Vexthor took the tablet and scrolled through the text. It was dense with legal language, but the core message was clear. The food he was about to eat would cause significant discomfort. It might cause temporary physical distress. His biology could handle it safely, but the experience would be intense. By signing, he acknowledged all of this and agreed not to hold the restaurant responsible. Liability waivers, he said slowly. For food. Yes, Jiwoo confirmed. It's necessary. What you've experienced so far is mild compared to what comes next. My brother needs to know you understand this. The 4 warriors looked at each other. Liability waivers. Protective gloves. The careful, almost reverential way the humans were treating whatever ingredients they were using. All of this pointed to something serious. Something that transcended normal dining. I will sign, Vexthor said. He pressed his claw to the tablet's signature pad, leaving a mark that the device accepted. I said I fear nothing. I meant it. His companion signed as well, though Grax did so with visible reluctance. I hope this is wisdom and not foolishness, he muttered. We'll find out soon, Yariva replied. tHFY emerged from the kitchen. This time he didn't carry plates. Instead, he carried a sealed container made of thick, transparent material. The container sat on a small cart along with what appeared to be a portable cooking element, a miniature stove. He wheeled this cart to the main table and positioned it carefully. Before I open this, tHFY said, his voice carrying clearly through the now silent restaurant, I need to explain what you're about to experience. This next dish is called buldak. In Korean, that means fire chicken. But this is not a standard preparation. This version uses some of Earth's most extreme peppers. He gestured to the sealed container. Inside here is chicken that has been marinated and cooked with a sauce containing ghost peppers, Carolina Reapers, and a hybrid pepper developed in the Mars colonies. The total Scoville rating of this dish is approximately 2 million units. Most of the aliens in the restaurant had no context for that number. But a few did. A human couple at a corner table both went pale. A trader who had done business on Earth actually stood up and moved to a table further away. What is a Scoville unit? Vexthor asked. It's a measurement of capsaicin concentration, tHFY explained. A bell pepper, which has no heat at all, rates 0 Scoville units. The black pepper we used earlier is around 1,000 units. The chili paste in the last course was about 30,000 units. He paused to let that sink in. The warriors had found 30,000 units intensely painful, and now they were facing something that was 2 million? To put it in perspective, tHFY continued, pure capsaicin extract rates at 16 million Scoville units. This dish is roughly 1/8 as hot as pure capsaicin. It is classified by human standards as extremely hot, and is not recommended for anyone who hasn't built up significant tolerance over years. The restaurant was completely silent now. Even the environmental system seemed to have quieted. Every being present understood that they were witnessing something significant. This wasn't just a meal anymore. This was a test, a challenge, a confrontation between species biology and evolutionary adaptation. You can still refuse, tHFY said to Vexthor. His tone wasn't mocking or challenging, just honest. There's no shame in it. Very few humans can handle food at this level. Most of my own species would refuse this dish. Vexthor's mandibles clicked slowly. His 4 hands rested on the table, completely steady despite everything his body was telling him. He thought about all the battles he had won, all the enemies he had defeated, all the impossible situations he had survived. Could he really let a plate of food defeat him? More than that, could he let fear stop him? Because that's what this was. Fear. Not of injury or death, but of pain, of discomfort, of loss of control. For the first time in years, Vexthor felt genuine fear, and he hated it. Open the container, he said. His voice was firm. I did not come this far to stop now. tHFY nodded. He respected the warrior's courage even while knowing what was about to happen. Very well. I'm going to do the final preparation here at your table. Part of the experience is watching the fire. He opened the sealed container and immediately several things happened. The smell hit everyone nearby like a physical force. It was sharp, aggressive, almost violent in its intensity. Aliens at surrounding tables jerked back. 2 more customers left the restaurant entirely, unable to handle even the aroma. The humans in the room had mixed reactions. Jiwoo's eyes watered, but she stood her ground. Taemin, watching from the kitchen, actually smiled slightly. The human couple at the corner table looked both horrified and impressed. Inside the container was chicken that had been cut into pieces and coated in a sauce so red it was almost black. The sauce glistened with oil and what appeared to be visible pepper flakes. Just looking at it made Vexthor's eyes water. tHFY activated the portable stove, adjusting it to high heat. Then he transferred the chicken from the container to a pan on the stove. The moment the meat hit the hot surface, it began to sizzle. The smell intensified immediately, becoming almost weaponized. The capsaicin vaporized slightly, creating fumes that made breathing difficult for anyone nearby. This final searing adds another dimension to the heat, tHFY explained, his voice calm despite the chaos his cooking was creating. It caramelizes the sauce and intensifies the flavors. He worked the food in the pan with practiced movements, flipping the pieces, ensuring even heating. Flames actually licked up from the pan as oil caught fire. tHFY didn't flinch. He simply adjusted his technique, incorporating the fire into his cooking. The flames danced, reflected in his dark eyes, and he smiled. That smile. It wasn't cruel or mocking. It wasn't the smile of someone inflicting harm for pleasure. It was the smile of someone doing what they loved, what they were good at, what gave them satisfaction. It was the smile of a human who had taken something that most species would consider a poison or a weapon and turned it into art, into culture, into something to be shared. That smile was somehow more frightening than any war cry or battle stance. The cooking took only a few minutes. When tHFY was satisfied, he turned off the stove and plated the chicken, 4 portions arranged beautifully despite their terrifying nature. He set the plates in front of each warrior with careful precision. This is buldak, he said simply. Fire chicken. The pinnacle of heat in Korean cuisine, enhanced with Earth's most extreme peppers. I recommend eating it slowly. Have dairy products ready. The change in Vexthor was immediate and total. His expression, which had maintained confidence and control through everything up to this point, shattered. His mandibles, which clicked with amusement or consideration, now splayed wide in what could only be described as shock. His eyes, all 6 of them, opened to their maximum width and began streaming tears involuntarily. His forearms moved without coordination. 2 grabbed at his throat. 1 clutched the table edge so hard that the reinforced metal creaked. The 4th reached desperately for his water glass, knocking it over in his panic. Water spilled across the table, but he didn't notice. He was entirely consumed by the fire burning inside his mouth. A sound emerged from Vexthor that nobody present had ever heard before. It was high-pitched, keening, almost a wail. It was the sound of a being experiencing something so far beyond their comprehension of pain that their brain simply couldn't process it properly. His armor plating, which had stayed its normal blue-silver color through countless battles, began shifting rapidly through colors. Red, orange, yellow, white. A full distress signal in Krathni biology. Water. He managed to gasp, though the word was barely recognizable. Water! Jiwoo was there instantly with a fresh glass. Vexthor grabbed it with shaking hands and drank the entire contents in 3 massive gulps. For a moment there was hope on his face. Then the capsaicin, spread throughout his mouth by the water, hit even more receptors. The pain actually got worse. He made that keening sound again, louder this time. His 3 companions had taken their own bites, though smaller ones. Grax's entire body had gone rigid. His military discipline the only thing keeping him in his seat. His armor plating was locked in a dark, almost black color. His breathing came in sharp, controlled gasps. Thune, who had eaten a larger piece, was actually standing now. His massive frame swayed slightly as his nervous system tried to decide if he was dying or not. His forearms windmilled slightly, reaching for something, anything that might make the pain stop. Tears poured down his face, dripping onto his armor. Eriva's crystalline plating was cycling through colors so rapidly it looked like she was glowing. Red, orange, yellow, white, blue, purple, back to red. The pattern repeated over and over. Her more refined biology was actually trying to classify the sensation, categorize it, understand it. But there was no understanding. There was only heat, only pain. Only the fire. Milk, Daeho said calmly to his sister. Bring the dairy products. Jiwoo moved quickly, returning from the kitchen with a large container of Earth-imported milk and several smaller containers of yogurt and ice cream. She began pouring milk into glasses while Taemin brought out spoons for the other dairy products. The next 10 minutes were controlled chaos. The 4 Krathni warriors, some of the most feared beings in the galaxy, were reduced to desperate, tearful creatures seeking any relief from the relentless burning. They drank milk in huge quantities. They ate yogurt by the spoonful. They held ice cream in their mouths until it melted, providing brief, blessed relief before the heat returned. Around the restaurant, the spectators watched in stunned silence. Some were recording. Others had stopped recording, feeling like they were witnessing something too personal, too vulnerable. A few aliens looked frightened, realizing that humans carried this capability within their cuisine. If human food could do this to warriors, what could human weapons do? Vexthor slowly regained some measure of control. The dairy products were helping, binding to the capsaicin and neutralizing it gradually. His breathing steadied. His arms stopped their frantic movements. But his eyes still streamed tears, and his armor plating remained a distressed orange color. He looked at Daeho, who had been standing nearby the entire time, calm and ready to help. The human's expression wasn't triumphant or mocking, just patient, waiting, understanding. What? Vexthor's voice was hoarse, damaged by his reaction. What manner of weapon is this? Daeho pulled up a chair and sat down across from the warrior. His movements were slow, non-threatening. Not a weapon, he said gently. Just food. On Earth, millions of humans eat dishes like this regularly. Some eat even hotter preparations. That's impossible, Grax croaked. He had finally gotten his breathing under control. No species would voluntarily subject themselves to this. And yet we do, Jiwoo said, bringing more milk. My brother and I grew up eating spicy food. Our mother made kimchi jjigae, spicy stew that would probably rate around 50,000 Scoville units. We ate it weekly. For pleasure? Eriva asked. Her plating had finally settled into a single color, a deep, confused purple. Your species experiences this as pleasurable? Taemin spoke up from where he stood near the kitchen. It's not pleasurable exactly. Not the pain itself. But humans experience an endorphin rush from capsaicin exposure. Our brains release natural painkillers to cope with the sensation. That creates a kind of euphoria. Over time, we begin to associate the pain with that good feeling. Plus, Daeho added, there's something satisfying about enduring difficulty. Humans often seek out challenges that test our limits. Spicy food is one of the safest ways to experience that. Thune had sat back down. though he continued to drink milk steadily. Safe, he repeated. You call this safe. You're not injured, tHFY pointed out. Your biology handled it. You're uncomfortable, yes. In significant distress, certainly. But in an hour, you'll be completely fine. No lasting damage. That's what makes it safe. It's all sensation, all nervous system response, but no actual harm. Vexthor was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Around them, the restaurant had slowly returned to some semblance of normalcy. Other customers resumed their own meals, though many kept glancing at the main table. The spectacle had passed, but the impact remained. I came here believing I feared nothing, Vexthor said finally. His voice was still rough but clearer now. I have fought in wars. I have survived death worlds. I have faced enemies that most beings only have nightmares about, and I truly believed that nothing could frighten me. He looked down at his hands, which still trembled slightly. But this food from your planet, it reduced me to a state I haven't experienced since I was a youngling. It bypassed all my experience, all my training, all my mental discipline. It simply attacked my nervous system directly, and there was nothing I could do to resist it. Capsaicin is evolutionarily brilliant, tHFY said. The plants that produce it developed it as a defense mechanism. Most mammals find it unbearable and won't eat the plants. Only birds are immune, and birds spread the seeds more effectively than mammals. It's elegant biological warfare. And humans, Grax said slowly, understanding dawning in his voice. Humans looked at this biological weapon and decided to cultivate it, to make it stronger, to use it in your food. We did, tHFY confirmed. We've been growing peppers for over 6,000 years. Each generation tried to create hotter varieties. We turned a plant's defense mechanism into a competition, into culture, into art. Iriva's plating shifted to a color that indicated deep thought. Your species evolved on a death world, didn't you? Earth is classified as high gravity, extreme climate variation, dangerous native species. I've read the reports. Earth is challenging, Jiwoo acknowledged. But we adapted. We're stubborn that way. No, Iriva said, her voice carrying new understanding. It's more than adaptation. You didn't just survive your world. You embraced it. You took everything dangerous about it and incorporated it into your culture. The pain, the challenge, the difficulty. You made it part of who you are. She looked at tHFY with something like awe. Other species flee from pain. They avoid it, minimize it, design their lives around comfort and safety. But humans run toward pain. You seek it out. You test yourselves against it. You laugh at it. Not always laughing, tHFY said with a slight smile, sometimes crying, like you all just experienced. Despite everything, despite the continued burning in his mouth and the lingering distress in his system, Vexthor laughed. It was a weak, rough laugh, but genuine. True, I definitely cried. His companions joined in the laughter, equally weak but real. There was something cathartic about admitting it, about accepting what had happened. I have a question, Grax said after a moment. You said some humans eat even hotter food than this. How much hotter? tHFY considered. Well, there are competitive eaters who challenge themselves with pure capsaicin extract. That's 16 million Scoville units. There are also peppers being developed that approach 3 million Scoville units. What you ate tonight would be considered very hot by normal standards, but not the absolute extreme. The four warriors exchanged looks of disbelief. Your species is insane, Thune stated flatly. Yeah, Taemin agreed cheerfully from the kitchen. We get that a lot. As the effects continued to fade, aided by continued dairy consumption, conversation at the table became easier. The warriors began asking questions about Earth, about human culture, about the strange relationship humans had with difficulty and pain. tHFY and his staff answered honestly, painting a picture of a species that had clawed its way up from a dangerous planet and carried that combative spirit with them into the stars. Other customers began approaching the table, tentatively at first, then with more confidence. They wanted to know what they had witnessed.